150th row. Today marks the 150th row that that I have done for the GA. So thank you all for that. And I wanted to throw out a couple of thank yous to individuals that have had a impact and systems that I have borrowed from. Number one, I wanted to thank Balsharas Comic Coyote and Darius Mesmer for the Sylvan Legends. That is a base element that I work from. And I want to thank R.A. Salvatore for taking my work and making Drow famous. And to Gary Gygax for listening to me when I said, hey, I want to be a Dark Elf. And he said, make them. And I did, and then he implemented it. So I think I got to throw that out there too. And for setting the basis for Dungeons and Dragons throughout time. And we'll throw a little thank you to Wendy Peeney for her, taking the idea of elves having an elemental twist and running forward with that, and to Tracy Hickman, Margaret Weiss for the concept of for the moons, which we will discuss in a while. Yep, Wendy Peeney is at SelfQuest. Throw a thank you out to Elder Scrolls and to World of Warcraft and to EverQuest, and for taking the Dungeons and Dragons concept and turning it into avatar-based online multiplayer role MMO, multiplayer RPGs, role-playing games. So wanted to throw all that out there, and then of course I got to throw out a thank you to my conclave for keeping the tracks keeping the wheels on the tracks when I can't always be here, because I can't. I do my best, but you know what? Hey, it's just not possible. And so I just wanted to throw those things out there a little bit before we get really rolling. I know we have a lot of new players in the GA, and of course we do have there's a lot of it will be a lot of things I'm going to say today is going to be a refresher for many people, but there will be a lot of people who it's not a refresher. We have two we have two new Sims that are working with us, Briarhaven and Silver Marches, and so this information is going to be pretty much brand new for them, and but for a lot of people it's going to be a refresher. I just wanted to throw some things out there. Silver Marches, but hey, don't be sorry. I know that I speak quickly. I try to keep it slow for you for you transcribers, but because if I spoke at my normal speed, it probably give you carpal tunnels, and we can't have that. So I just wanted to go through a few things that a lot of people are going to want to know about. Life, the universe, and the meaning of everything. So number one, let me touch on I think that the best way to do it, we'll start with the deep roads, okay? And then we'll work out from there. The deep roads are what is left of the Dark Elven Empire, of the Dark Elfar Empire, of what is commonly referred to as the Drow Empire. It's what's left of it. It's mostly destroyed. It has been through 3 Spider Squid Wars. And in the third Spider Squid War, 90% of it was destroyed. Okay? And 90% of the Dark Elven race was destroyed. We are, as they might say, an endangered species. Because the Illithid, mind flayers, for those of you that are not familiar with the term, Illithid were attempting to take over this plane of existence. Okay? And because they have an aversion to light, then when they were crossing the chaos plane into the plane of law, which is what we all inhabit, by the way, in case you did not know, they started from the Underdark, okay, which became the Deep Roads, ultimately. And they tried to destroy everything and everyone. They mind-slaved the dwarves, the Dugar. They mind-slaved the gnomes, the Surf Neblin, and they tried to mind-slave the Dark Elfar, the Drow. But, like all elves, but particularly the Dark Elves, we have a great deal of mind control resistance. Dark Elves are 90% resistant to mind control. So, instead of taking us over, they decided to eradicate us. They tried that 3 times over the course of several 100,000 years. And the last one was 200,000 years ago. Okay? Long before there were any people except for elves. Okay? And basically, okay, by the third Spider Squid War, other races had developed. There were dwarves, obviously, and gnomes, and a lot of the non-human races. Humans had begun, okay, but they had not really achieved a great deal. But they were at that stage of the game what you would refer to as Numen, okay. And just so you all know, all of the humans in our campaign that we have in our game are Numen. They are what humans were before they were human. Okay? That's why they have such long lives, and that's why they have that's why they are more equal to the rest of the races. Okay? because you're later on when humans become more human or more what we consider today to be mortal, their lives shortened, and they became more fertile. They're so that they ended up with 50-year lifespans with possibility of having 650 million kids. Exaggeration. Like insects and rats. But this is before that time. Our game takes place before that time. Okay, they still have much shorter lifespans than the other races around them, and they are more prolific as far as breeding goes than any other race. An elf, for example, may have 2, possibly 3 children, and they're 1,000 years. Okay, and dragons, they may have 3 clutches in 10,000 years. Okay, so compared to all the other races, humans are extremely prolific. And so ultimately they do take over the world. But we are not there yet. That happens in the future of us. Okay? Our game exists before Atlantis. Okay? So when people talk about, Atlantean, well, that's cool and everything, but it hasn't happened yet. We are before that. Okay? And elves are the progenitors of all of the ethnic setups that you will locate throughout time. Dark elves are the ethnic progenitors of Egypt, and the list goes on. But they're like another good example. Night elves are the ethnic progenitors of Far East Asia. Okay, high elves are the ethnic progenitors of Greco-Roman era. Okay. Wood elves are the ethnic progenitors of the Celtic era. Okay. So, and snow elves for the Nordic era. Just throwing that out there as well. And sun elves for the desert folk that is commonly referred to as the Middle East, to include northern Egypt, but not northern Africa, not Egypt. Okay. All right. Dark sounds pretty good. That's where sun elves come from. So, it's pretty broad. Wild elves, thank you for bringing that up. Wild elves are planetary. They're crossed everywhere. There's not an ethnic progenitor for them. Because wild elves are the elven type that chose animals as the force to which they could bond with this planet. Okay, like sun elves obviously chose the sun. Snow elves obviously chose the snow. Dark elves chose darkness. Wild elves chose animals, so wild elves are bonded with wolves or birds, and Actually, American Indian is one of the types, but it's very, very true, and it just depends on what animal they bonded with. Okay, a varial are a type of wild elf. Okay, just so you know, they're the ones that bonded with birds. Okay, and they're more prolific than the other types because birds can go anywhere. They are the most prolific of wild elves, but they are still a wild elf. Okay, but that gives you you know, a stepping on point. Okay, I guess because I'm talking about this, I should back it up just a little bit and let you know that elves started out. There were 3 races of elves, and on Yggdrasil. Okay, those 3 races were on 3 different branches of Yggdrasil. Okay, and that's why the original, you've got the Alfheim, the Svartalfheim, and the Niflheim. And then when Yggdrasil was threatened by the forces of chaos, yes, Yggdrasil, Trinity is correct. Okay. Belados, your attendance. So, but when Yggdrasil was threatened by the forces of chaos, then the magician at that time opened a portal to a planet in Midgard, okay, which was growing at that time. And at that time, it was only populated by dragons. Okay? Now, the dragons at that time were feral animals. Okay? They were animals, beasts, giant, claw-bearing, teeth-gnashing, winged monsters. But when that magician, my precursor, opened the portal from Yggdrasil and drew the elves across, it brought magic into that world. Now, when that happened, when magic was brought into that world, dragons gained intellect and magic inherently. All the beings that were running around the planet at that time, which were very few. You had dragons and you had a giant race called the Idra. Okay, and they were the only ones that were, thumbed. All right, and they absorbed the magic, a lot of magic that flushed through when the magician opened that portal. Okay, and elves came across. And then from there, elves separated, the three types of elves separated to find their way in the world. What was going to help them to exist. All right. The high elves chose civilization. Okay. And so they built cities. Okay. Wild elves chose animals, which over time those animals would alter, of course. Dark elves chose the darkness, etc., 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 like I just mentioned a few minutes ago. All right. So that's the basics for that. Okay. Now, we're in this new world, right? Okay. And the Dark Elves have gone underground, and the Illithid do just discover the planet. They had tried to take Yggdrasil and failed, and so they followed the elves to Terra, one of the planets in the plane of law called Terra in Midgard. Okay, and that's us. Okay. And so ultimately they slowly try to take over the world. But there's a lot more to it than that. That's just that's just a little bit basics. I'm doing the Cliff's Notes, as one may say. During the Spider Squid Wars, the magician, the one that opened the portal to get the elves across, and then before the Spider Squid Wars or any of that stuff, the one that opened the portal for the elves, it cost him his life to make that portal. Okay, but the magician, his life force goes to another self. He is reborn into a new self, and the magician starts over again. Okay, and that would be me. All right. During the Spider Squid Wars, the magician at that time, which in this case would be myself, was able to stop the Illithid, and with the help of course, all the rest of the Dark Elfar, and the sacrifice of the Driders. There was a Drider force that was instrumental in driving back the Illithid. Okay? The magician at that time made them his priesthood, and they became the first Blood Knights. They all of them died. They sacrificed themselves for the Dark Elves, but in memory of them, the current Blood Knights, that's why they have the ability to be Drider, and that's why the magician has granted them that ability, is in memory of the original Blood Knights. Let's go further with that. So, because the forces of chaos had tried to take Yggdrasil and were following the elves, then the magician noted the 4 moons on this planet. Okay? Now, you say, what? We have 4 moons? Well, yes, we do. But not everybody can see them. Okay? Because you see the moon that is associated with your class. Okay? If you are a shaman or warrior, then Not only do you see the standard, gray silver moon that's out there, everybody sees that one. Okay, they have this large gray silver moon that everybody sees. Okay, but if you are shaman or warrior, or well, we'll go farther than that, but we'll start there. Then you can see the red moon. Okay, if you are undead or a rogue or a practitioner of the dark arts, then you see the black moon. Okay? If you are a mage or a priest or a unicorn or a fae, then you see the white moon. Okay? And, if you're a paragon, you start being able to see more than one moon. Okay? You open up a door that another moon, you can start seeing another moon. All right. Now, you may ask, well, is there more to it than that? I mean, I thought that red meant neutral and black meant evil and white meant good. Well, you're not entirely wrong. That is somewhat true. Okay? They do represent those colors do represent those alignments, but it's more than that. Red also represents strength and constitution. Okay? Black also represents cunning and drive. Black, okay, now white also represents intellect and wisdom. Okay. Well, wolves, okay, thank you for bringing this up. There are animals associated with these three also. Wolves, lions, and bears are represented by the red. Okay? Rats, ravens, crows, spiders are represented by the black. Owls, doves, pigeons, eagles, foxes are represented by the white. Okay? So, in answer to your question about about lichen could feasibly, by their very nature, see all three moons. Okay? And that could go, you could expand that a little bit. Khajiit could possibly see all three. Now, they're born seeing the red, both lichen and Khajiit. They're born seeing the red, but where they go in their life, they could possibly inherently see all three. Okay? That is one of the differences. Thank you for bringing that up. A werewolf is not the same as a lichen. Werewolves are cursed humanoids. They only see the black. Okay? They don't see the red. You know, they weren't born to being a wolf. Okay? Dragons are according to class also. That's correct. Now there's a lot more deeper information about, you know, how the moons interact and how people are affected by them. But I'm going to allow that in its own class. Okay? I'm not going to go into all that. I'm doing Cliff Notes today. Okay? Just giving you some basics. All right. Now, so we just talked about the moons, right? Now, the magician draws essence from those moons and chooses 3 individuals at this time, the original, during the Spider-Squid Wars. The third Spider-Squid War, it's how one of the reasons that the Dakafar were not annihilated and completely eliminated is because the magician drew essence from those 3 moons into an individual. That individual became, in essence, an avatar of that moon. Okay? The red moon was drawn into the first Red Magister and was the force of strength to help fight against the forces of chaos. The Black Moon was drawn into the first Black Magister and was instrumental in fighting against the forces of chaos. And the same with White. The White Moon, the essence of the White Moon, was drawn into the first White Magister and was instrumental in fighting against the forces of chaos. Okay? And subsequently, between the Blood Knights, the Magisters, and I'll continue from there, but between the Blood Knights and the Conclave, they were able to drive back the Illithid, okay, and push out the forces of chaos from the plane of law. Plane of chaos, as you might have already gleaned, they're constantly trying to take over the plane of law. They started it with Yggdrasil. Soon as the plane of chaos discovered the plane of law, it needed to be devoured because chaos has nothing. Okay? You cannot say it's black because it's not. It has no color. You cannot say it's white because, again, it has no color. And you may say, hey, well, black is colorless and white is colorless. Yes, but those require something else. You know, for white to be colorless, you have to have light. For black to be colorless, you have to have pigment. Chaos, none of those exist. It does not have gravity. It does not have inertia. It has nothing. There are no laws. Okay? And its only thing is nothing. And so the plane of law is stigmatism, is stigmatic to the plane of chaos. it has to be eliminated. But some of the beings in the plane of chaos that touched the plane of law were granted physical beings, and they ended up not hating it. And so they're constantly trying to destroy the plane of law, but they need the plane of law in order to be physical beings, don't they? Haha. Yes, catch-22, right? Those individuals would be beings like the Illithid, beholders, gibbering mouthers, Atal Maru. All right, so we're going to roll forward with that one. Segue into Atal Maru. There are 3 prime individuals that are outside of the that are NPCs and that are outside of the standard. Okay, they're not in any pantheon, but they are deific type beings. One of those individuals is Atal Maru. Atal Maru, among many other names, is the Chaos Lord. It is a being from the plane of chaos that is constantly trying to spearhead the destruction of the plane of law. Okay? And Atal Maru has no desire to control it, has no desire to kill people or death or life or anything like that. It wants to eliminate, okay? Nothing. Wants to make nothing out of everything, okay? That is the goal of Atal Maru and Atal Maru's forces, okay? As opposed to Nargaroth, okay, Atal Maru is obviously chaotic evil, right? Nargaroth is lawful evil, because Nargaroth does not want to destroy everything. Nargaroth wants to enslave everything. Nargaroth's goals are to control everything, to enslave everything. And also, as all deific beings know, the more people who call your name, the more power you have. Okay? That's how deific beings get power, is by worshippers. Or even, they don't even have to be worshippers. They can be the enemy that says their name in vain all the time. Okay? Because mortals have power. Okay? The powers that mortals have is to give immortals power. That's one of the many abilities. Being mortal gives you its powers that immortals don't have. And one of those is the power to make immortals immortal. You know the idea that the evil that men do live long after the good? Well, that's because people keep that in their memory. Okay? And as long as a memory survives, whether it's of a person, like, Billy Bob, hey, you know what? Billy Bob passed away last week, okay? But Billy Bob never really died, because his memory survives. Okay? And that's right. The good is often interred with their bones, because people forget what the good things that they did were, but the memory survives. And as long as the memory survives, they're never going to die. And that's the way immortals, that's the way deific beings gain their power. Okay? As long as they are remembered, they will have power. So, Nargaroth is hell-bent on taking over the whole planet. Alright? So that he will live forever. Now, he's already taken over most of it. Okay? Here is where Silvara and the GA comes in to that. Silvara and the GA are refugee points where the rest of the world, whether they were good, evil, or monkeys, it doesn't matter, they all fled from the destruction of the planet to this part of the world. All right. Now, the planet itself is about, the size of Neptune. Okay? Thereabouts. Right? And this little neck of the world is about the size of the Earth. Okay? All of these, the GA and all the stuff that survives, it's about the size of the Earth, set into a planet the size of Neptune. Okay? I know that's maybe a little bit more for most people to conceive of, but since I'm throwing this out there, I might as well give you some information. Okay, so all the peoples flee. They're all refugees. Everybody's a refugee. They flee from the rest of the world that's being devoured by Nargaroth. Okay? Because Nargaroth, what Nargaroth wants to do? He wants to take over the world. Alright? He wants to take over the world. Because if he takes over the world, he can become a god. Okay? He sort of already is. But you know what? That's not enough. That's not enough. Okay? You gotta take over the whole world so I can have everybody worship me. Okay? Has anyone seen Rock and Rule? If you haven't, you should, because Mok has the attitude of Nargaroth. Alright. You combine Mok with Darth Vader, and then you're golden. Alright? And there is someone just asked me a question. I haven't quite got there yet, but I am about to. Okay? Just so that people know. Because if you type in Mok, then you're gonna actually see Iggy Pop. Okay. Hey, don't be sorry. That's not a common word. That's exactly how I would have spelled it if I didn't already know. If I didn't know how to spell Mok's name. Okay, so these two entities, they don't like each other, do they? They have opposing ideologies. But there's a third individual all right, who believes in rights, that all beings have their own, should deserve to have their own thoughts and their own desires and their own feelings and their own willpower and be themselves, okay? And this individual opposes both of those forces, all right? And that individual is the Dark Lord. Now you may ask, hey, Dark Lord, you know, we don't have, there's no light in any of this. You got chaos, you got the Chaos Lord, you got the Shadow Lord, and you got the Dark Lord. Where's the light, people? You know? Well, there's a lot of, the fact that the chaos is trying to take over the whole universe, okay, kind of puts a dark spin on everything, okay? And so light is extremely important, and has to grab what it can, okay, and does. That's what the light pantheons are all about. They're about building themselves up, okay? And you may note that even the dark pantheons, even the ones that are chaotic evil, even the abyss itself is part of the plane of law. So all of that's against chaos, okay? Heaven and hell itself, it's all against the plane of chaos. All right, but this is all backdrop, very, very big picture, and things that most people would not actually be thinking on a daily basis. Okay, that is where the individual deities can come into play, like Thor, Odin, Aphrodite, etc., etc. I could keep listing, but then the class would last 650 years. We don't want to do that. But that's where the individual deities come into play. It's because the people on this level, people are walking around on the Terran plane, they're not thinking about the fact that the plane of chaos is trying to devour Yggdrasil and Midgard and Asgard and all the things. They're not thinking about that stuff. No, they're walking around trying to make sure that Billy Bob doesn't come over and smack Sally Jane upside the head. And so they, call up Aphrodite and say, hey, can I have some healing powers so I can keep Sally Jane up when Billy Bob tries to smack her? And Aphrodite says, all right, bam. So Sally Jane keeps her hit points rolling, and then Sally Jane gets really good at the sword and starts smacking Billy Bob upside the head himself. All right, and then Billy Bob says, hey, Asmodeus, yo, bro, I got some bad guys against me. I need some powers. Can I fight against them? And Asmodeus says, all right, here you go. Bam. So now you got Billy Bob and Sally Jane fighting against each other. You got Aphrodite on one end, Asmodeus on the other. Okay? Because that's where you're standing. Okay? None of those people are thinking about the plane of chaos. But there are some people who are. Those some people who are the Conclave and the Blood Knights. The Blood Knights have, on a regular daily basis, they are just like, they are a paragon. They are cleric assassins. Okay? They are a paragon, cleric assassins. Okay? And they eliminate forces, they individually targeted forces of chaos. Okay? And the Conclave are all paragons also. Okay? Yes, you've got the three magisters, Red Magister, Black Magister, and White Magister, who are imbued with the power of the moons, whichever moon that happens to coincide. But there are also Magister Apprentices. These Magister Apprentices are also paragons, similar to the Blood Knights. But unlike the Blood Knights are cleric assassins. They have two classes. They stay that way. Okay? Magister Apprentices they can be multiple classes. They just have to go through the training and to get there. A Magister Apprentice is whatever class they are, plus whatever class that they can train to be, to add under their belt. Okay? So that in battles, they can use that in combat to fulfill a position that someone else cannot do. Example, Billy Bob is the high priest of Rue, okay? But he can't make the battle that day, okay? So Sally Jane, she's Black Magister Apprentice, and she happens to have priest under her belt. So she says, okay, hey, I can be high priest for the day. Alright? Alright. Cool. Sally Jane, you're filling in for Billy Bob. Because, Billy Bob can't make it today. All three magisters can do that too. Okay? All three magisters, except all three magisters already have all the classes. Okay? So if Billy Bob can't make it, Vark can fill in. Okay? Or, let's say that Tommy Lee is the warrior lead for Rue. Well, Vark can fill that role in too. He can fill Billy Bob, Sally Jane, Tommy Lee, Peggy Sue. They can all do that. All right. Yes, Jilla Rose. You have a question? That is true, yes. Now, there's also battle promotion. You could do that too. You could do that. That's perfectly legitimate. But if you don't have if you don't have anybody who can pull it off, then you can call Vark if you're on the dark side, or you're on the light side, you can call Argo, or you can call Ivy. Okay? To fill that slot. Yeah, we prefer to battle promote first, but you know what? Judge makes that call. Yeah, see what we just said. Judge's going to make that call because you know what? Billy Bob may be better needed over here. Okay? And so, yeah, let's pull in a Magister Apprentice to pull it to, it can fill that slot. Or Magister. Okay? Because, yeah, okay, Billy Bob could step up and be battle promoted to be the Archmage of the day. Okay? But I need Billy Bob over here doing this. Okay? So I can't have him do both things because Archmage is a necessary position on the field. Without Archmage, you just can't talk. Okay? Without the Archmage on the battlefield, you have to shut down comms. They die. If the Archmage is dead, then you have to turn off turn off voice. You cannot talk into the group. Okay? Archmage is dead. Means you guys can't talk. The reason you can talk is because of the Archmage. So, Archmage position, important. Alright? So, general position, important. General position is how you have any mapping ability. General dies, no map. Alright, everybody close your stuff. You're playing you're cheating if you have your map up. Can't do that. Generals on the field? Okay. We still have some mapping. Okay. So, a Magister Apprentice or a Magister can fill an important role on the battlefield if the judge and the general decide that that's what needs to happen. Okay? That is their job. Generally. Okay. Their other job is to fight against the forces arrayed against the Great Alliance, whether it be Nargaroth or Tall Maru. Now, sometimes, the Shadows have thrown in with the forces of Nargaroth. Apparently, yeah, but, that's okay. But Tall Maru is a different story. If a mage dies in combat, can an MA take their place? Yes, as long as the general and the judge say, go for it, All right. Yes. So again, sometimes the Shadows throw in with the forces of Nargaroth because their goal at that moment may align. Okay, but generally speaking, their goals do not align with the Tall Marus because the Tall Maru wants to destroy everything. Controlling things is different. That's what Nargaroth wants to do. Sometimes the Shadows can play into that because some of them are okay with that. Now, like Nif said, that's going to depend upon the general and the judge. Every general and judge are going to have their own idea of the answer. I am not, as game master, I'm not going to control everything that my dungeon masters do. I'm not going to control everything that my judges do. I'm not going to control everything that my generals do. Okay? They have the free will, they have the brain power, the training, and the knowledge to make their own decisions. They don't need micromanaging them. I don't believe in micromanaging people. Whether I'm the magician or the game master. Magician is my NPC. Game master is me. That's my role. Okay. Magician is somebody who I play on TV. Game Master is who I always am. Alright. No problem. I think we're actually just about ready to roll out. I'm just about ready to close that. So Belados for your attendance. And we are pretty close. I just going to allow for some questions, and then I do want to answer the final question of what is the meaning of the universe, life, and everything. And then I will shut down. You already did. See? I don't even have to say anything. He's been to enough. He knows enough. He's golden. That is the answer. That is the answer to what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. It's 42. You're golden. All right. Good, because you're going to need it. All right. So, Belados for your attendance, Red Magister. Have a good one. So, that was down and dirty Cliff's Notes to all the things. Are there any questions? I know it's a lot to swallow because I gave it to you in Cliff Notes, fast, down, fast and furious, and all of those things. They all have their own individual classes. You know, can teach a class on the moons, can teach a class on the Blood Knights, can teach a class on the Spider Squid Wars. Despair is a good word for that. That's correct. Belados for your attendance and Assassin's Dagger. And yes, Zilla Ninetails, that is correct. And hopefully this gets passed along, because I know not everyone made today, so I'm thinking there must be some traffic, because when I first arrived, there were 18 people in this room before, and then by the time I walked to my podium, that's not the number. So I think we're having some issues on that. So hopefully everyone, this was recorded as in whatever fashion we can get to pass along to all the peoples. Okay? Because this is a good starting point. 150th row. Okay? So hopefully that will help. Okay. Are there any questions? Last, I'm going to throw this out one more time. If there are any questions. Doom, 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 doom. Okay. All right. Then in that case, I'm going to go ahead and close this. I do know that like I said, this was down and dirty, Cliff Notes. There are classes on all of the different aspects that we talked about today. Oh, and I know that I didn't go into the deep roads heavily, but I did tell you what they are, so hopefully you understand that whenever you go onto a deep roads run, what you're doing is you're going into the old kingdom and retrieving stuff from the old kingdom and battling individuals that have set up home in the old kingdom. And that is important information. And the deep roads are adventures, dungeon delves that we run. Okay, set up by my individual dungeon masters. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of information. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Balados for your attendance. Vendas for now.